block and everything, a lot of things like that is not just going to make sense, except you have to build some certain things into your house. So what are you going to put into your house? You are going to put in your concrete and everything to make the building much stronger. So, but what everybody is seeing is the block, but behind the block, nobody is seeing the number of cement that was poured on the building to make it stand so strong. Nobody is seeing the number of iron rod that was used in the building. So this is just exactly what uh, software is all about. So just have the two part. So today we'll be looking at the first part of it, and we'll be having HTML. We'll be looking at things like the HTML and the CSS. So that is what we'll be looking at, the very basic knowledge of it. So I believe you may not have your laptop now. I believe you may not have your laptop now. So what we'll be going through today, I'll be going through some very basic coding. So if you have your phone there with you, you can just join me and open this page, codepen.io. So this is just for illustration for what we are going to do today. But subsequently, we are going to use a uh, more better approach in coding. So for us to code, we are going to use this. So I just dropped the website there. So just search for it. Just copy it from this chat, codepen.io. So if you've opened that, you'll be able to quickly sign up there. So if you sign up, you'll be able to. Um, yes, I'm going to share my screen. Yes, I'm going to share my screen. So let me quickly share my screen of what the code pen is all about. So this is how the code pen is. So why I asked you to open it is because if you are using maybe your phone for now, you can just use it to be practicing until maybe you set up or what we need for the real coding, which is what we call a Visual Studio Code. So for now, this is what we'll be using. So this is how the code pen just look like. Just a very simple interface. What it does is it allows us to write our code online. So we can be writing our code just like this. So that is so for us to do that, first and foremost, I've already created an account. So if you've not created it, will ask you to create an account. So if you come up to this level, you're going to go to pen. You're going to go to pen. You see a lot of things. For me, I already have some project there. Okay, so you're going to close this. So I have some of my work here that I've done. So if you already have that, so this is some of the works. Okay, some of my okay. This is the last project I did. So you can just go to create. You just go to create. So this is the recent work I did. So then from there you can say start new pen. So you can just start a new pen. So when you start a new pen, so a very simple way to also locate it, I'm going to paste it there. So this is what you have. So I'm going to paste the link again. So with that, you'll be able to go straight up. So I don't know if you are all there. So this is going to open a new pen for you. So I don't know if you have been able to sign up quickly on that if you have your phone or anything. Or maybe if you have a spare phone, of course, it can work on a spare phone. The code pen can work on a spare phone. I don't know if you sign up. So, okay, so let me assume that we're trying to sign up so far. So I may just have to wait a little. I may just have to wait a little. Okay, so if we're able to sign up now, So if you're able to sign up now, you may have to start. So the first thing we want to write is the HTML code. So we're going to write an HTML code. So what is basically an HTML? It allows you to write the basic things you want to have in your code. Basic structure, like you want to add a text, you want to add this, you want to actually add that. So that is what we're actually going to be doing. So let's start right now. So first and foremost, if you want to actually start your HTML, the first thing we have to do, we have to define the HTML. So we have something called the HTML, or basically, let me just start from this. You have to define, there's what we call a doc type. So we just define a doc type, write a doc type all like this. So this is just like the structure of what we should have. Then you have to tell it that is an HTML. Of course, the file already knows that this is an HTML, but just for us to understand, I'm going to explain all what this means. So the next thing you're now going to have is what we call an element, HTML element. So we'll have this, um, sorry. So we have this. Now in an HTML, there's what we call a nesting. In HTML, there's what we call nesting. It's just like putting something within inside this place. You understand? So we're going to have an HTML, and inside the HTML, we have to define the language, what we want the HTML to be. So for now, we are using English. So for now, we are using English. So if it's in English, we just simply write it as EN. If it's French, you want, so this is just okay. So write it as EN. If it's French, you put FR. If it's Spanish, it becomes EX. So just like that, with that you'll be able to define the language of what your HTML should look like. Now the next thing we have in an HTML, we have two parts to an HTML. The first is the head and the second is the body. Now I'm going to explain what this is. So the first part here of our HTML will have our head, okay? And we have to close this. Now you notice that all what I've been doing here is closing. It seems as if I'm writing it twice. It's just like in English language whereby you have your full stop or your punctuation. This is where you have to punctuate it. So this is like starting it and this is like ending it. If you don't end it, it's going to throw an error. So the next thing here we're going to have is the body. Now the body is what actually shows on the page that we browse on. So I will have the body here. This is what shows on the page that we browse on. Okay, having some. Hope you can hear me. I'm trying to know why my stem is hanging. Right. Okay, just a moment. And then we close something that's making it hang. Okay, okay. Please just a moment. Okay, so I can continue. Oh, oh, my system is just hanging. Let me know. Please, I'll have to fix it. Let me know why it's hanging. Just a moment. I want to close some things that are actually making this hang. It's hanging terribly. Just a moment. Sorry about that. Okay. Okay. So sorry about that. I have a network issue and my system was hanging due to some work I was doing. So let me continue share the screen. So the screen is coming up now. Okay. So so you have this. So what is the title? The title is the title that I want to see on the page. Now, then the body, whatever you say in the body is what shows in the web page. So there are different kind of things you can put, just like normal English language. We can have the title. Maybe you want to write, maybe you want to write the title of a page, for example. So you can have a title, for instance. Okay, I'm just fixing that now. So what do we have now? For example, we have a different kind of elements we can use here. So you can see how we start working. So we have what we call the H1. And of course, as I said, you have to close it. So when you close this, so we can say this is the heading. So whatever we write here is what is going to be showing on the page. Now you can see this is what is showing here on the page, exactly what I've written here. And you have this H1 to HC. So I can just copy what I have here, or I can write it at the bottom here. So you can have H2 here. I say this is the heading. Okay. You can say H2. I can say this is the heading. I can put it this way. I can put it this way, H2. Now, you will notice something here. You will notice that the H2 is smaller than the H1, and there is H1 down to H6, depending on the heading. The H1 simply means a heading, so it all depends what you want to do there. It just means heading. So the H1 just means heading. So if I try to put H3, you find out that the H3 becomes smaller. You find out that the H3 becomes smaller. So you can say this is the heading. The H3 becomes smaller. Please, I don't know if you all can hear me. I don't know. Please, if you can hear me, let me be sure that you all can hear me.
Yeah, yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, okay. So sorry about the initial breaking. So I was having my system was hanging. So,
So,
all right. You want to
all
ask
right,
the
what? I'm hearing you. I'm hearing you.
okay, okay. Thank you. Okay, so let me go ahead. So you can unmute. So go ahead. Going forward. So as I said, you have H1 to H6. So if you just have like a spare phone, just as I said, you can be trying this. Just go to your code pen. As I'm doing that, you will also be practicing that. So let's try out this H4. So you can say this is the heading. You have to notice that as I continue to type, moving from H1 downwards, the text keep getting smaller just because that is the way it works, and it has different purposes. Like in English language, there's what they call heading, there's the subheading and all that. So depends on the purpose. So you can see it keep getting smaller and smaller and smaller, as you can see here. But at the end of the day, they are all headings. Now, if you want to now write a normal text, if you want to write a normal text, then instead of using H1, we can use just what we call a P tag. The same way we have to close it. We can just call it, let's say, this is a paragraph, or this is a normal text. So we can just say this is a normal text. So remember, you have to close it. If you don't close it, it's going to throw an error. So you can say this normal text has shown here. is now a very normal text, different from this. So other things we can put here. Now, if you want to actually make a list, it's good to know these basic things because by the time we start doing something much bigger, you are going to use them. It's a very common thing you use in HTML. So the p tag and the rest. Now, the next one we have to use here, very, very popular, unordered list. So what do you use in ordered list, for example? So same way, you have to close it. Now, there is what we call nesting. Putting something inside another element, you call it nesting. It's just like in a family. So let's assume this is the father, and inside this father, it has children inside it, and these are the children. Now, what happened in this other list? You can use it to make a list of items, like maybe a list of items the way you do in your English language. So we have something like this. So we can have an order list. So I can call this um, learning. Let's say learning, for example, is the first in the list. So we close this. So remember, as I said, the li you see here is being nested. Being nested means that this is the child, and this where is being nested is the parent. So that is the way it's done. So we use that a lot. And you can equally see that in the body. You can see that every other thing here, the H1, the H2, the H3, H4, P tag, including this, they are all the children of body. So the body is the parents, why all these are the parents. Why all these are the children. So the same way this is the parents, why the ly is the child. So you can equally have something very like this. So let's say another li to make a list of items. So let's call this knowledge. Let's call this knowledge. Okay, I made a mistake. I didn't close it. That is why it's throwing an error. So let's call this knowledge, and closing this. Now let's call this virtue, for example. So this is just some random list I just wanted to make. So how does it look like? This is how easily it looks like. So I have to take this up. So you can see it has a bullet point, same way you find it in Microsoft Word. So if I don't like this bullet point, for example, I just want to make it in terms of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 to any number. Instead of using this UL, the UL, as I mentioned, means unordered list. Unordered, let me write it here. So it means unordered list. Unordered. So that is what it means. So if you want to make it to be the 1, 2, 3, you can use ordered list. We are going to be using this as we move forward. So instead of using U, I can use what? O, meaning ordered. So if I go back now, you can see that this will change to 1, 2, 3. You can see this has changed to 1, 2, 3. Now, what else again? Now we have other things we can look at. Looking at some other things. So before I proceed, I don't know if you have any question. Please, you can ask your question. Please, you can ask your question if you have any question before we move forward. You have any question?
Yes. Uh, I do not understand this unordered list and ordered list.
Okay. So let me go back to the unordered list. So as I mentioned, this OL means ordered list. Ordered list means the list of items will come in numbers. The way you make a list of items, you have the first thing, number one, second one, number two, number three. If I keep adding, the number will keep increasing. But when I don't want to use the numbers, I want to use a bullet point. So if you use Microsoft Word, you want to use a bullet point. Instead of using OL, I can just change this to UL. So instead of one, two, three, it appears this way, bullet point, just like this. So you find this in Microsoft Word. I don't know if I'm able to answer your question.
No, I don't still understand.
Okay, but do you use Microsoft Word often? Do you use Microsoft Word?
No.
Okay, you've not used Microsoft Word before.
I've used it before.
Okay, so if you've used it before, as I mentioned, maybe you are trying to make a list of items. As I said, let's take for example, you want to go to a market, for example, and you want to buy different items, or or you want to go to the market, you want to just make a list of things you want to buy. You want to make a list of things you want to buy. It's just a way of listing items, like number one, number two, or you want somebody asking you, please get me the names of people in your streets, or get me the names of people in your compound. If you want to make such list, you have to number them. You have to say number one, this, number two, this person, number three, this person, number four, this person. Just exactly the same way. It's just the same way we just write in English language, nothing different. So you just want to make a list of items. That is where we use that. It's just normal English language. It's just normal thing we use in English language in making a list of items. So I don't know if I've answered you. Have I answered you, please? Are you there? Okay, maybe we can move forward.
I'm
So,
here.
okay, your question.
No,
Okay, you have a question.
I just joined, and I'm sorry because I know that you guys won't go back. Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
yeah. So
Okay, okay. So I can just summarize what we've done so far. So in summary of just what we've just done so far, so we're
okay,
trying to look at what is an HTML, which is the backbone of looking at the front end. So in the front end, we have this HTML, we have this CSS, and we have this. But in the meantime, we are going to be using just this alone, just these two
okay.
for now. Yes. So just like you have in English language, you tell you in English language if you want to start any word, you start with your capital letter. So
Yes,
this
please.
is a structure of how it should be like. So this is like a template. So you have to define it. And this is just how it's going to be like. It may not be easy to memorize, but as time goes on, you get used to
Oh yeah.
writing this.
Yes.
So this is, you have a doc type, you define it that this is an HTML. Then inside the HTML, you define the language, showing that EN means that this HTML is going to be English. So if it's French, it's going to be FR. If it's Spanish, is going to be ES.
Yeah.
If it's Portugal, it's going to be PT. So for now, we are using English, so that is going to be EN. So now, in this inside this HTML, we have the head section and the body. This head is what shows us the title. If you look at the title of your web page, when you try to access your web page, you have a title. There are other things that can go into the head sections. but this is just the most important of it all. Then the body is what shows these things we are writing here.
Yes, please.
This is just like a normal content where you see it on your web page. So you open any website, this is anything you see on the web page is written in the body section. So whatever I see. So we have different things here we can put on there. These are all headings. So these are all headings. So we can call it types of heading, for example. These are types of heading, if you can put it that way. So we have a H1 and we have H1 to H6. So we have H1 to H6. So depending on what you want to use it for. Then we have the P tag for paragraph, which is just a P. Then we have another list, an ordered list. So we're looking at ordered list. For example, we said you're trying to make a list of items. So ordered list in sense simply means is numbered. Like you want to make a list of something. So instead of using this UL, which is on ordered list, you can make it OL, meaning that you want to just make a list of items. Maybe you want to go to the market, someone asks you to get the names of someone people in your area at your workplace or whatsoever. So you can see with this list is numbered from one to any number. So that is where we are. So I don't know if you have any question. So that is basically the sum. So um so we can proceed. So let's look at other basic things we can do here. So these are just the very basic thing. So let's look at creating a link, for example. Most often you see this a lot. So you can see something like there's what we call an anchor tag. So most times we could see this a lot. So so there's what we call an anchor tag. So what does this do? Maybe you want to go to a link or something. Maybe you want to go to a link or something, or somebody sent you a link or something. You want to create a link. The way you can see something like you want to create a button or whatsoever thing. So to go to a link of an item, so we can use the href. So the A there means anchor tag. It just simply means anchor. So we want to create so it's just something very much simple. So in creating that, we can just pass in what we want to pass here. So we can just pass in what we want to pass there this way. And so you can find something like, let's say this is www.facebook.com, for example. Then you will see something like click here to register. So so this you can see now, this is a link, this becomes a link. Okay, this becomes a link, for instance. So I can add https. So this becomes a link when you want to access it. So these are the various things you can actually do. So now we want to look at some basic styling. What actually is this CSS? Now we want to start beautifying all these things we've done. We want to start beautifying them. Now, for us to actually use the CSS is like trying to paint. We are trying to color all the beautiful things we are trying to build and all that. We are trying to color it to make it look so beautiful. So the first thing we can use here, the first thing we have to do, we have to I prefer to use a class. What does a class mean? A class means you are trying to group things that are similar or common. So it's either you use a class or you use an ID. You can equally use this name to style. What these names are called identifiers in your CSS. So if I want to use H1, for example, and I want to say, for example, I want to start styling this, I can say H1. So this is how it looks like. So I can say color, and I can call it yellow, and I can say yellow. Now you can see that my H1 has turned to yellow. I don't know if you can see that. So if I make it green, my H1 has turned to green. That is how you color. If I make this purple, my H1 has turned to purple. If I want to include H1 to H4, I will just add comma to it. I will just say H2 comma H3 comma H4. So it captures H1 to H4. So everything here has been changed. Now, if I don't want this, I can simply do a very simple thing. I can just give this a class. Class means you are trying to group the items. So class means you are just trying uh, to group the items. So I can call this heading. Now, if I try to do this, if I don't want to use this and I want to use a class, I can to write this to notify that you I want to style this name. You don't just come and write heading like this. So you don't just come and write heading just like this. The way I did is not going to work because it's not a normal element. So for us to tell the CSS that this is a class, you have to put a dot before it. And this dot is going to tell you that, okay, this is a class. So it's going to look for a class that is called heading. So I can do the same thing here. I can say color, I can call it blue, and you can see it has changed to blue. But if I try to remove this now, you see, it's not going to work because there's no such thing, there's no such tag. The HTML is going, the CSS will think that you are referring to this tag. Meanwhile, there's no such thing called heading. So for us to make it a class, we just add dot to it. We can also use ID. Now I'm going to explain the difference between ID and class. So if I use ID, instead of using dot to tell CSS that this heading is an ID, we are going to use the hash sign, and that is going to style it. Now the difference between the class, the difference between the class and the ID, the difference between the class and the ID. So the difference between the class and the ID is just that ID can only be used for one item at a time. So what do I mean by ID? I cannot have heading here, heading here. It's not going to work. If you do that, the CSS is going to style only the first heading. I don't know if you get me. So if I decide to copy this heading here and put this here, CSS is going to style the first heading. It's not going to touch this. Okay, it's still tidy, but it's not ideal anyway. But it's still, in most cases, it's going to, yeah, it may happen that it may end up styling only one. But if you want it to be the same, you just use, like if you want to group it, just like um to have the same name, you can use class. But in most web development theory, it's better you use class to group. It's much faster for the CSS to understand when you use class. So instead of this now, for example, so the same way I did comma here, I can call this heading 2. I can call this heading 2. So it's not going to style. So what is going to happen here? Or I can just call this ordinary heading. So if I also want to style this, I can just say dot heading. So in this case, it's treating an ID. Okay, it's not going to work this way because I'm putting them together. So, but if I put them separately, it's going to style. So let me copy this, cut this out here from this place and put it here. So I can say color. So this color I can say pink, for example. So you can see it's styling a heading, which is an ID, this one, and is also styling a heading, which is a class. So the other different things you can do here, we can use the CSS to give it an underline. In using that underline, there's what we call text decoration. So you can use text decoration. You use what we call text decoration, and in text decoration, we'll pass it a value of underline. Okay, let me know why it's not showing. Okay, let me just quickly know why. Okay, I think I mistake it somewhere. So it's supposed to be, yes, it's correct. Text decoration underline. So I don't know why it's supposed to underline. This particular one is supposed to underline. Maybe I didn't spell it well. Underline. So, well, maybe when we start using a better editor, it's not going to happen like this. I guess this is just from or what we're using. So, okay, I think this is where my error is coming from. Okay, yes, I forgot to close it. So, if you want to write anything, you have to close it. So, it's working now. So, it must use your column to close the first thing that you wrote. If not, the next one is not going to work. So, that was why it's not working. So, the other basic things we can do there, um, we can position this thing. We can say text align. If you are used to center, we can put it at the center. So you can see the heading is at the center. Um, we can change the font of it. So we can give it a font. So we call it font family. So the type of font you can use sans. Okay, okay. I have to close this again so it can work. Okay, let's try Roboto. So there are different font families. So maybe we can leave that one out. So there are different other things you can put in there. So I don't know if you have your question. As we proceed further, we are going to be building real websites using this styling, different stylings that we've used here. So as we proceed, so we're going to be building real websites and we're going to be using all this that we've learned, this basic knowledge we've learned so far. So please, if you have your question, you can ask. Okay, no one has any question. Are we all together? Hello, are we all together? Are we all together?
Yes,
Yes, we're
sir.
all together.
Oh, okay, 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 okay. I wasn't getting any response. So do you Have any questions? Do you have any question?
No question.
Okay, so let's look at other things that we can probably style. So now we want to do a very simple layout here. So we want to do a very simple layout, just something very, very simple. So like a web page. So for me to do that, I have to clean some of the things I'm doing here. Just a kind of like a mini project. So I'll go back to this body side. I'm going to clean this up. So I'm going to clean this up to this level. So inside this body, I want to do a very simple project. So I have a container here. So the container is more like what is holding. Remember what I mentioned, the um, child element and the parent element. So this is something we have here. So the container is going to be the parent, while every other thing is going to be the child or the children, if there are many. So you have this. So someone want to say something? Okay, so let's just quickly move ahead. So we can quickly do this. So now in this, there are two parts to what we want to do. We have to do a layout. And what do we want to do in this layout? Two things is that we need a header and we need the main section for this. So just as I said, this is going to be a header. What is going to be in this header will be things like logo and the nav items, that is the menus. So we have a header, and the second one we have the main content. So the main content is where the real thing is going to be. So all these are similar to what we've learned. So we use this to section our. Oh, sorry, I muted. So sorry, I muted. So we are trying to create a very simple project. So I clean up everything inside the body section, and I put up a container which is going to hold what we are doing. And inside this, we need a header which is going to have our logo and our navigation items. And this main is where the main content of the website will be. So you can have something like this. Now remember, I have to close it the way I said, opening tag and the closing tag. So in the opening tag, you don't need this, but in the closing tag, you need a forward slash. So let me space it again so you see where they all belong. Now, what I just simply want to do, the first thing is that I need a logo. The first thing is that inside this, I need a logo. So I can call this logo H1, but it's not supposed to be called H1. But for the sake of what we are doing, we can call it a H1. So, and here I can just call it logo. So, so here I can call it logo. So the next thing here, we have a nav bar. Oh, this is missing. I have to take it up here. So in the next section here, we have a nav bar. So it's already appearing here. We have a nav bar, and I have to close this nav bar. So I close this nav bar here. So in this nav bar, it's going to have the different navigation items. So we made use of ordered list and unordered list. So we are going to use it here right now. So in this ordered list, we have something like this. So this is where we put our navigation. So this is how the simple website you see looks like. So we're trying to build like a very simple website now. Oh, let me know why it's hanging. Okay, sorry about that. I don't know why it is hanging. Okay, so let's move ahead. So here we have another list. So this is where the list of what? This is where the list of the navigation items like the home button and the rest will go to. So this is based on what we've used so far. So here we can now give it a list the way we did
Sorry,
it.
I didn't know prompt to it, or this is the only prompt that can be used.
Yes, this is not the only prompt that can. What do you mean by prompts? Let me understand first. Sorry. Do you mean the code or the tool that we can use?
The two.
Okay, now professionally, we are going to be using what we call Virtual Studio Code, VS Code. So why I'm using this is because it does not need any setup. If you have a phone, you have a laptop, you can easily sign up and be typing along with me. But in the other one, we have to do some setup. So I don't want to waste your time doing the setup. That is why I have to use this for now. So subsequently, in subsequent classes, we are going to be using the Visual Studio Code. Okay, so
Okay,
let's
thank you.
yeah, you're welcome. So let's look at this now. The first list, we'll call it home, the way you find it in your website. Okay, I have to close. Remember, if you don't close, it's going to throw an error. So this is looking like our website. The next thing we can have here, we can have another thing, we can call it services. Yes, the meeting is being recorded. So the next thing here we can have, we can call it services. This is how it just a very simple web page is. So we're going to create just that now in a twinkle of an eye. So the next thing we can have here, we can have the contact page. Okay, so I have this list again. Can call it the contact. I can call it the contact, and okay. So the next thing again, I can call it about. Okay, about could be here. Let me put about here. So that is what mostly you may see, how you see it in a web page. So you can have an about here. So so this is how it's looking, but this is not how it should actually look like by the time we finish. So by the time we finish this, it's going to look extremely different. So now the next thing we have to put in here, we have put in our navigation inside our header and our logo. So if we have a logo now, we could have put our logo there. We may equally look for a logo and replace that with the logo. Now the next thing here, we need our main section. Now inside the main section, we want to put like section as if we want to write a blog or kind of like an article. So we are done with this header now. As I said, so inside the header we have the logo. Let me separate it. We have the logo and we have the navbar. So let's go to the main section. So there's what we call a div. So when we want to section something, just as I mentioned, we can use something called a div. Now remember when I said parents and the child. Now this div is going to house something. House means it's going to contain something. And what is it going to contain? What we want to display in our web page. So inside this div now, we can have the items we want to display, and we can have equally another div. So for the sake of what we're doing, we can have just two div for now. Let's just keep two div. So we can have the first div, meaning the content you want to put. You can close this. So as you proceed forward, you're going to understand what this div is all about. And so this is another div inside the another div. So you can nest as much as possible. So what we are trying to do by putting this div inside this div is what we call nesting. So we are trying to nest it. So you are not going to see the div now because there is no content in there. But if I write something here, I say this is the first div, and I say this is the second div. You can see now it's showing. So you know that what we are doing here is actually working. But for now, let's remove the div. We don't actually need
So
it for
sorry
now.
about
We'll
that.
just
So sorry for disturbing. Like,
all right.
is that diff is it also can you also is it also working for like H1 and H2 or is totally different?
Yes, a div, as I mentioned, is just for sectioning. You want to use it to section. What do I mean by section? It's just like when you build a house, you are using a block to demarcate. It's just like demarcating what you want. So this first div is demarcating this. So these things here must be inside this one. These two div must be inside this. So we are demarcating this. So this div is like it's just like this man married two wives, and this is the
Okay,
first wife. These are the children of the first wife. Now, if I add another div again, this become the second wife.
okay, thank you.
So this becomes the second wife, and inside the second wife, if you put another thing inside it, it becomes the children. So this becomes the children of the second wife. So that is how it works. So you are trying to demarcate. It's just like, oh yeah, go to your own. So this is the father, this is the mother, and these are the children. Okay, so let's look at something else. So we're looking at the main. So now we've tried to done this div. Now remember when I said when we want to style, now it's time to style for us to make it look so beautiful. Now this is what we are going to do. We are going to go to our styling. But before we go to our styling, we want to make it easy for us to be able to know what we'll style. So we have to start giving it a class. And how do we give it a class? So I can go back to this side. I can go back to this container. I may not need to give this container a class, but for the sake of what we are doing, let's give it a class and we can call it a container. And this header, we can give it a class and we can call it heading. Or okay. What name should we give it? Let's give it a header. Let's just give it the same name. Let's just give it the same name. Let's just give it the same name. And for this logo, we can have a class here. Let's just give it logo. So we are just giving it exactly the same name, but we don't want to use this. Um, so that is it. So that is it about the logo. Now the next thing we can have here. So we have our nav bar. So for this case now, we are going to give this, we call it our nav bar. So we can give it a class and give this a class. And we call this the nav bar. Oh, sorry, the mistake. So now this is the list of all the nav bars. So I can give this a class and call it nav bar list. Nav, sorry, nav bar list. Okay. So the next thing we need here Now, all the whole nav bars, or we can just call it nav bar items since they are all the same, nothing is special. So they are all common. So I can give them a common name, which is I can just call it nav bar item. So items in the nav bar. So nav bar. Oh, sorry about that. So supposed to be a class. Give it a class. I can call it nav bar item. Let me expand this. I'm going to expand this so you see it very well. Okay, so nav bar. Please, if you are free to ask your question as I'm typing, if you have any question. Okay. So, okay, I'm just reading your message. Yes, as I mentioned, is recorded. So let's look at so I'm trying to give it a class name, everything. I'm trying to give everything a class name. Okay, just a moment. Where do I stop? Okay, where did I stop? So here, so I can call this navbar item. So I can call this um navbar item. Give this another class name. Navbar navbar item. This also will be called navbar. Sorry, to be a class. To be a class and call it navbar. Keep making the mistake. Navbar item. Okay, this is now I have to also give a class to the main section where the content of what is supposed to be our web page should look like. So I will call it main content. I will choose to call it main content. I will call it main content. So this class here, can give it a class here and call it main content. It looks like something is wrong. Let me know why. Okay. Okay. Now under this, so I may not even need this. I may not actually need this anyway. So I may have to remove this one because I just need two children here inside the main section. So I can just have just this. So I can call it I can give this a class and call it first section. I can call it first section, and this I can call it and call this second section. Okay, so this is first section. I can call this second section. Now let's start putting our work together. So I have to delete this CSS. So what will be the first thing we have to do? So we have to start with the heading first. So what do we do with the heading first? So we have to start with our heading. So in starting with our heading, Okay, let's do it this way. So we want to start styling. Okay. Okay. Just a moment. So first and foremost, I want to put this heading side by side. Let me put it that way. I have to put this heading side by side. And what do I mean by side by side? So I want the logo to be on the left and this whole item will be on the right. Now, for me to do that, I'm going to use what is called a flex. That is a property you find in CSS. We use what we call a flex. So the logo will be on the left. All these items will be on the right hand side. So for me to do that, I have to put what we call a header. So I'll start writing my CSS, which is used for styling. Remember, why I'm able to use this header is because this header is nesting the logo and this. The header is nesting this. So this is embedded, this logo and this nav bar
Please,
is
your camera,
embedded
please. Your
inside.
camera, please.
Is that?
Your camera
Are you
went
there?
off at the point.
Okay, all right. So what I'm trying to say is we are trying to style this. So this logo and this nav bar is inside this header. So whatever you do to it is going to affect this logo and this, nothing else. So because it's nested inside it, so you can see this is the logo and this is a nav bar nested inside this header. So for us to do this, the first thing we have to write here, we have to say display. How do you want to display this thing? We have to say we want to display it as a flex and close it. So after every CSS you write, you close it. Now, this is not all. Now, we want to add a space in between it. So we want to add a space in between it. So we use what we call justify content and align items. So I can say justify content because you can see it's too close. This is not how it should be. So you can say justify content. So, and in this justify content, there are different properties there. There is space around, there is space between, there is start, there is end. But we are going to use what is called space between. So we use space between. So you can see it has taken it to the end. So for us to make it to align very well, we align items. So align items again, we use what we call space between again. So we want to add the same space between. Now, looking at this thing, you can see that this is not how a typical web page should look like. We cannot have something like dot 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 in what they call it in a page. So what are we going to do there? We now use this list. We now use the value of this list that we initially used here. So in this list, so we have to use this list. So we'll go to another line, write another CSS. We say list. This list is coming from this LI. That is where it's coming from. So we want to remove these dots that we are seeing here. So in doing that, we use this list and we say style, release style rather. We say list style and we call it none. So this has removed the dots we have there. But this is not all. We are still meant to make this to be straightforward, to be straight like this. So that is just not all. Now, the next thing for us to make it to be straight, to be on a straight line, we use what we call another thing there, we call display. So display simply means how do you want it to look like? So we have what we call inline block. So it's going to be in line, but on its own. So you can see it has changed from column to this. So this is coming like a normal page, as you can see. Now we can decide to style this we can add change the fonts of this. Let's see. Let's change the fonts. There is what we call font family for this header. So font family. Let's style it to make it look beautiful. So we can have what we call a font family, and we can say open sans. So there are different kind of open sans. Okay, okay, it's supposed to be this way, open sans. So and close this. And if open sans is not available, we can use sans serif. If it's not available, we can use comma sans serif. Okay, so sans serif is available. We try to use open sans, is not available. So we use sans serif. That is what the comma means. That is what this comma you are seeing means. So it means if this one is not available, use the second one. So now it's not still not looking okay. So we can do some things there. We can do some things here. And what are the things we can do here? We want to add the spacing. We want to add space between these items. So we want to add spacing between these items, between the home, the service, the about, and the contact. So you can see it's too clumsy. They are too joined together. We don't like the way it's joining together. So what do we use? We can use what we call padding. So in padding, you are trying to give a space in between. So we can say padding. But this padding, there are three, four types of padding. We have the padding to the left, meaning you are trying to give a space. Padding is just like giving a space between the text. The space that is between the text. So you are trying to space, you are trying to tell the next text, please sheet for me, please let me have my space. Just like when you enter your bus and you are trying to find a space, say, please, can you adjust and all that. So we have padding right, and we can give this 15 pixel. Let's see how it looks like. Okay, so you can see we now have the space. So this is coming like a real website. Okay, so and the next thing we can have here, we can equally give it a font family. You know, we can equally give it a font family. Let's make it a font family. We can copy this font family. Okay, the font family is already there, so there's no need. So this is the header, so I don't need the font family here. Now, I actually made a mistake because this is actually supposed to be a link. This is actually supposed to be a link, as if you are going to create, as if you are going to click on the link. So this is actually how it's supposed to be. Remember when we did our anchor tag? So we can go back here, just a very minor something. So this is supposed to be anchor href. But even if you don't do it this way, it still doesn't change anything. It's just for us to understand. Okay, fine, let's just leave it for now anyway. But just that in a real world, it's supposed to be an anchor tag, meaning for it to be able to be clickable. So for now, we can just leave it like that. It's not really an issue. So so the next thing now, we want to work on the second part, and this second part we want to work on is very, very interesting. So this is where we want to put our content. So we are done with this and we are done with this. So we want to work on the part. Now, I think we need to add a margin to this header. Let's try and add a margin so it will be kind of centered. So in this, we can use what we call margin. So in this margin, instead of having to repeat, remember I said we have padding right, padding left, padding bottom, padding top. So I need a margin on the left hand side. I also need a margin on the right hand side, but I don't want to be writing margin right. and come again and write margin left. So the simplest way to do this, I can just simply say 0. 0 simply means margin at the top, which we don't want. We add another space. So here that we need the margin, let's say we need a margin of 5 pixels. And that's just it. So you can see added a margin to us for us. So I can add 15. You can see it has adjusted. So this means the margin at the top and the margin at the bottom. This means the margin on the left and the margin on the right. So let's use 25. So it has come very much close. So that's just it. So the next thing we need here, I don't know if you are following me. Do you have any question? All right, all right. So the next thing here, the next thing here, we want to actually put this next content here. Now, what is this content here? We are done with this heading. This is our logo. This is our menu, the way it looks on the website. Now, we want to work on this. Now, we want to work on this. Now, what do we do? What do you say? Oh, your voice is muffled. Can you speak kind of most clear? Voice is
Okay,
muffled.
sorry. I said all about the colors. Like, I didn't start with all they can be changed.
Okay, okay, let me add color to the logo, right?
Yes.
Okay, let me add a color to the logo. So let's say, so for me to add color to the logo, I have to look for the class I use in the logo. So I use this. So I use this called logo, and let me give a space here. So I can give it a color. So what color do you want us to give it? Should we say purple? Is this okay?
Yes, yes,
Um,
yes, yes, yes.
or we can say indigo. Okay, let's say indigo. This is okay. Okay, now let's go to the next section. So this is where the content of our page appears. So what do we do in this next section? Now, the same way we added a display, we have to also add a display right here. So how do we do that? So first and foremost, we say main content. We say main content here. And the next thing we will do here, we will define the display. So now we use Flexbox, the previous one on our header, but we don't want to use Flexbox here. We want to use what we call grid. Grid gives you more control to what you can do to the page, to your layout. So in this grid, I will just say display. I'm sorry, it's supposed to be called the display. And instead of this, I'll call it grid and close it. You are not going to see what I'm doing now. Don't worry. Then the next thing here, um, grid template column. I'll have grid template column. Now, what I want now is that I want to divide this page into 4 parts, but I want this one to take half of the page. So for me to be able to do that, I can say 2 fraction and 1 fraction. So we are still not going to see, okay, let me call it 3 fraction. So I want this to be 3/4 of the page. No, so this one will be 3/4 of the page, while this will be 1/4 of the page. So the next thing here, I want to add I want to add a gap. Okay, before I proceed, I want you to see what I'm actually doing. So you don't, because for what I'm doing now, you are not going to see it. Let me put this first section. So let me quickly start this first section so that you understand what I'm doing. So I can say first section. Remember, you can put comma, a space to add the next one. So second, okay, okay, yes, second section, uh, second section. So what I'm going to do here now, in this now, I'm going to add a background color. I'm going to add a background color of, let's see, let me add a background color. Can add a background color to it. Blue. Okay. I can add a background color of called blue. Then let me put a text in here. Let me call this. This is the first. This is the first section. Then here I can see this is the second section. Okay, so you can see what I'm actually doing. So in this background, so let me continue now. So I'm trying to put this in a flex, in a grid rather. So in this main content here, so I can have a grid gap. So I have to close this for it to now go. Okay. Um, Grid gap can say 20 pixels. It's supposed to be going to the right hand side. Oh, okay. I think there's something wrong with this. Okay. If it doesn't work, let me just use main. I'm going to just use main. Then remove this. Let me put just main. Okay. I will put just div. Then I'll add I think something just is just wrong with this side. I need to figure it out. Okay. Supposed to be showing up. It's like I have to rewrite this. Let me know what is wrong. Okay, I don't know. Are you all with me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. My main content is now appearing here. I don't know why. It's supposed to be appearing just like this. or should I use div? Please. Okay, let me know. I don't know. I'm supposed to be seeing this, but I don't know. Seems there's a limit to what I may do there. Okay, let me try and put it here. I don't know. Okay, I think it's working here. So I'm going to use it from here. Okay, so I'm going to use it from here. So I'm going to say class for this. So instead of this, I can call it I think I may have to remove this. Um, I may have to remove this container here. Yes, so I may have to remove this container here. Or the container is helping it. Okay, let me just leave it anyway. Let me just leave it. See, okay. So I can have a container. So let me just add a class here. Okay, that is working. So I can give this main content. And inside this, I can have another div. I can call this div. I can call this div first section. Then this second one, I can call it another div second section. I can close this div. Okay, so I can put this as main section as a class here. Oh, sorry, main section. Okay, so this is supposed to be section, not content. So main section, so it will bear the same name. Okay, so now the grid is appearing. All right, so I can use row, for instance. Okay, just a moment, I'm making a mistake somewhere. Okay, let me use one fraction here. There's a mistake I just made somewhere that is making it work this way. Okay. Okay. Let me use flex. Let me continue to use flex. So with this flex, I think there's an issue with this grid here. So with this flex, I can go back here and so with this flex, I can go back here and say justify content between, align item space between. So with this flex here, I can say instead of using this, I can say justify items space between, then align items space between. Okay, so and here I can give this a width, and coming to this side, I can give it a width of 40%. You can give it a width of 40%. So it will be mm, okay, just a moment. Okay. Okay, let me see. Okay, I need to get this. Guess some things are not reflecting here. Why? The background color is not reflecting. Okay, I made a mistake. I didn't add class to this. That is why it's not working. Sorry. First section. So if you don't add the class here, it's not going to respond. So class here will be second section. Okay. So I have first section, second section. All right. Okay. Okay. Now let me go back and use the grid I wanted to use. So I can use this grid. I can say grid template column here. I want to use this grid template column. I can say 3 fraction, 1 fraction. Okay, I think I'm still having issue why this is not. I think I've reached the limit. Something is making this not to work. Supposed to have a grid. What I was just trying to do is to space this out the same way I did this here. Same, but I don't know where I got it wrong. I think the body, something is wrong with the body. I need to rewrite this. The issue could come from this. The issue should come from this. The issue should come from this. Just a moment. I think this is not even allowing Let me check why is not allowing another thing to be nested here, which is really, really bad. Okay, I think this is a restriction from what they call it, code pen. It's actually not allowing me to add another parent because this is supposed to be head. After this head, I'm supposed to have the main section here, but it's not allowing that. So I don't just know why. Maybe by the time we start using by the time we start using VS Code, it's going to be different. So this is just a limit. So please ask your question because I'm trying to know why it's not allowing that. So what I'm just trying to explain now is this. Remember you have a header which is housing this, the logo, which is this logo, and this, which is this nav bar. Now, inside this same body, I'm trying to add another section that will house this, but this is not allowing that to happen. So by the time we start using VS Code, which is what we suppose is going to be different. So it's going to allow us to add the section at the bottom here. So maybe for now, at least you understand some concepts. So you can feel free to ask your question. Hello, please feel free to ask your question. Are you all there? Are you all there? Hello? You are not, no one is responding.
Yeah, we
Hello?
are here. We are here.
Oh, okay. So you can feel free to ask your question.
I don't have questions at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah.
So from what you've done so far, this is what HTML and CSS can actually do for us. So as we proceed further in our subsequent classes, we will not be using this um, code pen. We have to be using VS Code so we can have smooth ride in our coding journey. So we'll be looking at other concepts in full details as we proceed. So over to the host so he can give you more information. Over to you, the host. Hello. Okay, I guess maybe you're experiencing some network challenge. So I believe so subsequently as we proceed, so um more information about the courses will be conveyed in the WhatsApp group. So I believe it's going to be starting by the first week of of next month. So by then, the next thing we're going to do is to install our Visual Studio Code. Then we'll grab more concepts on HTML, CSS. Then subsequently, we'll start learning the JavaScript. So from me, I think that will be all for now. So please, if you have anything to ask, you can always drop your question in the group and you get response and any other information. So are you all there? So and also for those that are asking, yes, the is being recorded. The meeting is being recorded, and also you get it the link for the recorded meeting in the group as well. So from me, that will be all for now. So um so in our next class, we're going to be looking more in depth, as I mentioned, into more concepts.
Thank you.
Alright. So good night, everyone.
Good night.
All right.
Good night.
Yeah, good night.
Good night.
Good night.
They are done. Are you serious? Which group is it? Okay, they are done. Oh. Everybody don't come out now. They are done.